Poppy and Lupin in full 800 by 600 bun-sized flash. The presentation that is the subject of this page is hosted in its original format here. Day of Wraith, Mozart with the moist art. Alternatively, it can be streamed in smaller dimensions and with one element, a decibel detector, peculiarly blacked out via a high-quality encoding of an AVI at YouTube. The best encoding 2006 YouTube could apply to a WMV variant, kept so that we can see how things used to be when we couldn't see. It is September 2009. No, it isn't. And I am adding a breakdown to this post. The newly composed commentary is to follow the bleating and not worth repeating little pats on the head paragraphs that were the Day of Wraith e-greetings heralds when I began this requiem writing as a less mess neat retreat wordpress.com blog in October 2008. I have since November 2009 retreated from Neat Retreat back here to www.somethingstupid.plus.com. The animation was made in late 2003, HEXED, and The Dining Room. Much in the manner, if not much in the manner of much Wenlock, and not tying the knot, much in the manner of wedlock, in the manner of much Wenlock. Perhaps there's a deadlock, though that'd be hemlock. That the first poem I sent to abctales.com was cherry-picked, with subsequent scribblings all unhonoured. Startlingly, my first flesh got a nod from the beta newsletter, which helped give me the energy to quickly complete my second attempt in an many seconds effort to catch Christmas. But try as I might, as a trite might try to remember, December fell flat. A noob with the Macromedia multimedia program, I created the entire presentation within a single scene, a terrible technique, causing every element to be chaotically stacked, with all editing requiring a full playful, play the fool playthrough. It took me a complete weekend just to do the sequence with the spinning crystals, and when I reached my self-imposed deadline of St. Nicholas's Day, I skimped a tad on the quantity of envelopes that I would have preferred to have included. I was pretty amazed to have lucked out, noticing passable English phrases within the Latin enunciation for the whole holy song. The alterations brought themselves particularly to the fore in this specific recording of Mozart's music and Thomas of Sileno's words. I think my distortions are nothing short of a lyrical miracle. The mutually tickled, however, are in a minority. Nevertheless, I shall continue with a Mozart Mondegreen breakdown. You can view the lengthy 19-plus tercet Dies Irae poem at Wikipedia. Mozart only musicalized a small section of the beginning of that text, 6 lines in fact, chopped up and rammed home repeatedly in this arrangement.
Dies Irae, Dies Irae, Dies Irae, solvet cyclem in favilla, teste David cam Sibilla. Quantus tremor est futurus, quando judex est venturus, cultus stricti discassivorus. Dies Irae, solvet cyclem in favilla, teste David cam Sibilla. Quantus tremor est futurus, quando judex est venturus, cultus stricti discassurus. Quantus tremor est futurus, Dies Irae, quantus tremor est futurus, Dies Irae, quantus tremor est futurus, quando judex est venturus, cunctus stricti discassurus. Cunctus stricti discassurus. Cunctus stricti discassurus.
www.somethingstupid.plus.com. I did not have access to this Latin when I created the following derangement, which was arrived at impurely by ear in the style of a wishful thinking Columbus imposing the domineering will of his tongue on the natives. A visual adaptation of the original text could never have resulted in the wild deviations of these anglicised and empurpled misheard lyrics. Deepest feeling. Sleepless fever. Solid silver. Live for fear. Crystal diet holds him near. Haunt us, ghost of Taurus. Hearken, holy chorus. Noah's Ark will speak to discuss all this. Deepest feeling. Sleepless fever. Solid silver. Live for fear. Crystal diet holds him near. Haunters dreadful, restful taunts. Are not uselessness, they've torn us. Cold heart's queen will dismal scorn us. Hark, the twirling always will adorn us. Dizzy, dizzy. Hark, the threat more or less will have taught us. Dizzy, desire. Hark, the threatened always will talk. Not to save the least of the fawners. Alleluia sends victorious. All lost sentience to saunas. God is knitting gorgeous knickers. Send your Christmas orders. God is ripping gorgeous knickers. Send your Christmas orders. www.somethingstupid.plus.com. I have found a number of online English translations of the portion of Dies Irae that Mozart chose. None of these is as direct and clinical as I had expected. The sacred script is a poem and is treated as such, with the nuance and ambiguity of art taking precedence over the precision of exactitude. There is a lot of variation between suggestions and no small deviation where scholars have taken pleasure in embellishing or slanting the meaning, adding their own personalities, artistry and rules of rhythm and rhyme. Franklin Johnson's 19th century discussion of this craft is available to download or read online via this link to archive.org, the Dies Irae, an English version in double rhymes with an essay and notes. Having looked up all the words and phrases in William Whitaker's online Words, Latin to English and English to Latin dictionary, I felt a little at a loss as to the proper definitions of particularly cyclum and discussorus. Cyclum appears to mean everyone. It is linked to age, generation, breed, race, present time, age, century, people born at a time. And yet most translations interpret this as the less personal world, as if it is the planet that is to be emphasised as being incinerated, rather than the globe's population bearing the brunt of incendiary red-hot wrath. That's not Tim with the temperature. The Latin for world is not cyclum. It is chiefly mundus. Discussorus, in its form meaning plead case, probably gives us our modern English discussion. I never realised that there was a defensive and judicial twang to this commonly lightly applied term, nor that it implied a high level of vigour, if not outright violence. It is formed from die, meaning apart, and cortere, meaning shake. Thus, to discuss is to shake apart, and if we discuss enough, we will discuss it and discuss it. Disgusting! There's no disguising it. This shaking apart could be as powerful as a blowing up, a most fitting for the end of the world court-in-court scenario that is the subject matter of the Iri Dies Iri. The online Latin to English dictionary weighs in favour of the destructive and annihilative grouping. Strike down, shatter, dissipate, and bring to naught, without mentioning the scales or measures that refine many a honing. If it's a puzzle, you might solve it. For balance within a sentence, solve it taken as scatter rather than loosen, release, unbind, untie, free, pay off or pay back, matches, baboom, the glowing ashes of a fawilla that could alternatively be undark sparks or amber embers. Dies illa, solvet cyclum in favilla, teste David cum Sibylla. Quantus tremor est futurus, quando iudex es venturus, cuncte stricti discussurus. An angel is a divine messenger. I found the quartet of these characters proving themselves to be high-minded yet stabling influences over a holy household in Domenico Ghirlandaio's 15th century painting, Adoration of the Magi. I detailed the detail to enroll their scroll and relay the alternate English script of the Misheard Dies Irae. Swept into outer space, and not under the carpet, our gliding guides, humble before Hubble, are not starstruck by the sweating stealer left, damp, doomed and damned on the left. He is Paul Newman, portraying the thief Butch Cassidy in the 1969 cowboy crime caper film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Although this source would suggest that a sleepless fever has been brought about by a nauseating nervousness incited by the fear of being forced to imminently embelly a breadbasket full of Bolivian bullets. Perhaps amongst Paul Newman's sources are some supremely spicy varieties that might stimulate similar skin-soaking symptoms. Oh, indeedy do, and with a tagline, a heavenly sauce that's straight from hell, that couldn't be more pertinent. Newman's own hot and spicy sauce is available from online supermarket Ocado. This solid silver is not sullied silver, and the silver service is that cut above cutlery for the bestestest of butlery can only be religious if the primate is a primate. Literal, glitter all, crystals, litter all. Here's Jesus with a crystal Christal circlet, encircled by singers. For hours of fun, try pairing, not pairing, hands cloned choristers' hands. I paired them with Domenico Ghirlandaio's devout shouters and the shady apparition of a cowy but non-kowtowy constellation. Then each other. The black box, with a strip ripped from it by my AVI encoder, is a volume gauge, a decibel detector dial. In this auditory capacity, perhaps it would be of use to black box. Linked. The missing. Noah's Ark is Noah's Ark. To the rear and the right, we see an ornamental Noah's Ark, carved from precious metals, perhaps born both from and to a pot of gold. In common with the angels ahead of it, its rail is the root of the rainbow. This coloured curve is the Noah's Ark, the sign that the dreadful deluge has desisted, a marker to man from his maker of the covenant, God's promise to the meek to not seek to destroy them again. Well, at least not until Revelation's segregations. To turn a UFO, unidentified flying object, into an IFO, identified flying object, I must state that the sable spinner is a discus, drawn from discuss. Wonky-legged in a numbered singlet and sporting sporty spectrum-speckled, quite long shorts, is multicoloured, multi-Olympic gold medal-winning Lithuanian athlete Virgilijus Alenka as the thrower of the discussed discus. Beside him, if not beside himself, is Santa Claus as the wry catcher of the Noah's Ark model from the previous screenshot. This second set of solid silver cutlery includes a knife and fork with skeletal handles. These bony blades are buddies with the bearded Beelzebub behind and together represent the haunters in the next picture, in which we see a rather rocky gemstone crystal diet succeeded by a deadly drumstick-driven crystal Carrington diet. No chicken, she uses food to fend off hunger pangs and a fearsome fiend. In a tumult where Crystal Carrington did not chew malt, that champ of chomp finds she can't keep everything under her hat, so heaven, the heavens, and Linda Evans open to reveal not the 7 seas, and not the 7 seals, but a clime where 7 seals might climb, clubbing together gleefully with squeals, the ice cream queen of hearts and hidden parts that cards discard conceals, while the blood of the shopped, barbarously bludgeoned bubs congeals. You might pipe your eye that they had to die, but these pipers from on high, the flower of the tower, will not cry wolf. Gang Amadeus Mozart. As they melt what's dealt. This image shows what torture, school, and education is represented by a chalked-on blackboard showing the simple symbols greater than and less than to more or less express the more or less of the lyric. The 2 blue items are thumb screws. Celestial spiraling is enough to make anyone dizzy, but not everyone has as much right to blow their own trumpet as Dizzy Gillespie. With those thumbscrews out of sight but not out of mind, it is sure that the threatened all-aways will talk, yet rarely may they be guaranteed to speak for themselves, as too woeful to waffle, this momentarily mute, glazed-eyed ventriloquist's mannequin won't and wouldn't dispute. He is struck dumb only until jaw-droppingly, voice-throwingly, he succumbs, unnumbs, and becomes a struck dummy. Giggle. Less, but garrulous. Fauner than the fauner, browner than the frowner, and hot as Hades, this gospel lady's tossing her triumph trophy and singing a winning Alleluia to Jehovah, and a grinning, pallid puppet, part blur, part Zoe Ball. It's rude to point. To a point. It's also rude to turn up with a bunch of petty potty putty people and then not say who they are. Apart from God, I can only recognise Kate Moss. The grand designer, the greater creator, is supposed to be fashioning Adam, modelling him in his own image. I'm really not sure he's all he's cracked up to be, and, frustratingly, he's the second person in this blog post who looks exactly like a girl I knew at school. It's not the same girl, who I completely can't tell you about, because you won't know her from Adam. Damn! Arguably not only limp-wristed, if we gain some perspective, we can hardly see that this mellow fellow is a little less like that girl from school.
Little.
Being the operative. And what's all that phallic, buckety asparagus stuff getting and being groped at the bottom by Agrippa, not Agrippa? Clearly it is not a clean-shaven, unbarbed, birthday-suited, ungarbed Adam Eden who is the most obvious earthy and earthly physical reflection of the grizzled and grisly god of Michelangelo's pink-frocked pointer. Instead, bearing gifts, ruby-robed and in hirsute pursuit of godly goodliness, the man our Father far more closely resembles is our Father Christmas. Why else would Santa be cradling the ark? The text, God is knitting, refers not only to the sartorially fully woolly knotting of knitting well-spread threads, but also to the unhoming combing, the unespousing delousing of knits. As well as being a derogatory term applied to one perceived to be an ignoramus, one should never ignore Amos. A knit is the egg or nymph of a headlouse. Look carefully, and you will see them there, a pair, among the fair hair. God has one knitted nit still caught in his quiff. There is a violet egg on the cloud beneath the banner by the angel's knees, whilst the leggiest of the trio falls towards a mustachioed Robert Redford. In the guise of gunslinger Harry Longabow, he stands above the law, below the Lord, and to the right of his right-hand man and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid co-star Paul Newman. Together, these thieving heartthrobs may be collectivised as gorgeous knickers. To nick is to reappropriate. A trinity of wholly mean meanings in this God is ripping screenshot. 1. A description of the divinity. God is ripping equals general high praise for God expressed in hoity-toity 1920s tough slang. 2. A description of the divinity's activity. God is ripping equals God is tearing. He is calling a garment a varmint, whether weasels ripped my flesh or the word made flesh, none or none of the Lord above. 3. A description of another of the divinity's act of godivities. God is R.I.P.ing equals God, the giveth and taketh awayer of all things, is fonder of grave than of graven images. 2 tombstones are divined behind, defined, refined as Moses' tablets, bitter pills, sweet, sugar-coated. Not sugar-coated, but pastel-panted by these late bloomers harking with their rainbow colours back to the Ark and Alenka. Plus, who's to say what gorgeous knickers the gorgeous knickers tuck twixt their chaps and slicker-kicker spats? This is where I am pushing the envelope, if not the much higher number of envelopes I would ideally have added as non-dismissive missives, and my luck to suggest that this Mozart Mondegreen could contend to be a festive e-greeting. As a 10 megabyte flash file, the narrowband constraints of 2003 meant that I sent this to no one. I think we've all had more than enough of these notes on notes. The banner should banner, your honour. Be goner! The world whirled into a horn. Forlorn. Production period main memories. The Darkness on Frank Skinner. Starry, Starry Nights. Nestlé's Milky Bar. Might Have Made It. William Blake. Chalk. Clock faces. Clothes pegs. Dunce's caps. Ear trumpets. And karate.